You check your bank balance the way you check a wound, quickly, nervously, hoping it hasn't gotten worse since the last time. That single habit explains more about your financial life than any budget ever will. The enemy was never poverty. It was the safety you were taught to worship in its place. You've done everything you were told to do. You saved when you could. You avoided the reckless decisions everyone warned you about. You waited for the right time, the way responsible people are supposed to. And somehow, the people around you who took the risk you were too careful to take are the ones now living the life you quietly measure yourself against at 3 in the morning. This isn't bad luck. It isn't unfairness, at least not the kind you've been telling yourself. It's a system, one that rewards a very specific psychology and quietly punishes the exact caution you were raised to admire as a virtue. There's a principle, centuries old, that explains this better than any modern finance book ever will. Machiavelli wrote that men fear ruin more than they desire greatness, and that this fear, left unchallenged, will always outvote ambition in the moment it matters most. He wasn't describing politics. He was describing the exact instant, earlier today, when you talked yourself out of something bigger because it felt too exposed, too visible, too far from the version of yourself you're used to being. You already know this about yourself. That's the only reason you're still watching instead of scrolling away. Look closely at the belief that quietly built your entire financial life. Work hard, stay careful, and the system eventually pays you back for your patience. It sounds like maturity. It feels like wisdom, the kind your parents probably handed you with good intentions. But underneath it is a quiet exchange you never consciously agreed to. You traded real growth for predictability, so early and so often that it stopped feeling like a choice at all. The cost never shows up in a single month, which is exactly why it's so easy to ignore. It shows up as a decade that looked productive on paper but never actually compounded into anything you can point to. The wealthy don't skip this trade because they're fearless or reckless or somehow wired differently from birth. They skip it because somewhere along the way they learned that comfort has a price too. It's just billed later in a currency called opportunity, and the invoice never arrives with a warning label. If your entire financial identity has been built around avoiding loss, you already agreed to a ceiling. You just never saw who installed it or when. Now examine, honestly, how you actually relate to money day to day. Most people manage it like a threat, checking the balance the way you check a smoke alarm, flinching slightly at every dip, feeling a private relief when nothing's changed. The wealthy treat money the way you treat a tool built to last 40 years, with patience, with routine upkeep, without the emotional flinch every time it moves in either direction. This single difference keeps you small on purpose, without you ever choosing it consciously. You stop taking informed risks not because the numbers tell you no, but because your nervous system tells you no first, and you've never once separated the two signals. This is precisely why disciplined people so often stay poor while undisciplined people occasionally get rich by accident. Discipline, aimed at the wrong target, becomes a very sophisticated form of self-sabotage. Fear-based management protects you from small, visible losses while quietly guaranteeing you the largest invisible one. Decades of irrelevance to the future you claim you're building toward. There's a deeper pattern still, one most people never say out loud, because naming it feels dangerously close to betrayal. You were handed a story early, often before you could even question it, about who someone like you is allowed to become. Every time an opportunity appeared that felt too big, too visible, too far outside the role you were quietly given, something in you found a reason to shrink back toward familiar, forgivable ground. That's identity protecting itself. It was never you protecting your future. It only felt that way in the moment. The wealthy didn't start with more permission than you. They simply stopped waiting to be granted it. Those who wait to be given power rarely receive it, Machiavelli observed, while those who assume it quietly, without asking, are rarely challenged on the way in. Your ceiling was never economic. It was narrative, written by people who meant well, and narratives can be rewritten by anyone finally willing to stop performing the old one for an audience that stopped watching years ago. Here's something you already know but have probably never said out loud, not even to yourself. You've worked harder for less money than someone visibly less capable than you, earning considerably more. It didn't sit right and you noticed. You blamed politics or luck or plain unfairness, and sometimes you were right to. But underneath is a harder truth, one that doesn't flatter anyone. Visibility consistently outperforms competence, because most people are judged on what can be seen and remembered, not on what is quietly, privately true. The wealthy don't work in silence hoping to eventually be discovered. They position themselves precisely where their value can be observed, measured, and rewarded in real time. The cost of staying invisible isn't just missed recognition, though that stings enough on its own. It's the slow, almost imperceptible erosion of your own belief that competence should have been sufficient. It was never about being enough. It was about being seen, and no one told you that early enough for it to matter. Stop here for a second, because this next part isn't supposed to feel comfortable, and if it does, you're not being honest yet. The safety you've spent years carefully building, the savings you check for reassurance, the routine you call responsible, the caution you've quietly mistaken for wisdom, was never protecting your future. It was protecting your present comfort from the discomfort your future actually required of you. What you called stability was very often just delay, dressed carefully in language that made delay feel like virtue instead of avoidance. The people who overtook you didn't carry less fear than you do right now. They simply refused to let fear cast the deciding vote in moments that mattered. And if you're honest with yourself in this exact second, not performing honesty for some imagined audience, you already knew all of this. You've known it for a while, maybe longer than you'd like to admit. You just hadn't been asked to say it out loud until this precise moment. The final pattern is the quietest of all, and the most decisive. Wealthy thinking treats money as a downstream result of identity, never as an upstream cause of it. Most people wait to feel secure before acting secure, wait to feel capable before negotiating like someone capable, wait to feel worthy before ever asking for more than they're currently given. But identity doesn't arrive first, no matter how long you wait for it to. It's built, slowly and unglamorously, through decisions made before you felt fully ready for them. Fortune favors those who act boldly before the moment fully justifies it, Machiavelli warned, because the moment that fully justifies boldness never arrives on its own schedule. Every pattern before this one was a symptom. This is the root beneath all of them. You were never waiting for confidence. You were waiting for permission no one was ever going to hand you, and the only person standing where that permission gets issued is you, right now, in this exact moment. You don't need another insight today. You need to notice which one you just quietly flinched at, because that's the one running your life without your consent, and it's been running it for longer than you'd like to calculate. Don't scroll past that discomfort the way you've scrolled past everything else this week. Sit inside it just for a moment. That's the only part of the next 10 minutes that will still matter to you a year from now. If something in this video just named a pattern you felt for years but never once said out loud, don't let it quietly dissolve by tomorrow morning the way everything else does. Subscribe if you want the next pattern exposed before it quietly costs you another year of your life. This channel isn't built for people looking for comfort or reassurance or permission to stay exactly where they are. It's built for people who are finally done being underestimated by their own caution. You were never poor because you lacked information. You've had access to more of it than any generation before you. You were never going to get rich by simply collecting more of it either. You are exactly where your relationship with discomfort has quietly placed you, and the day that relationship finally changes, the money stops being the goal and becomes what it was always supposed to be. A formality, not a miracle. The wealthy were never a different kind of person, born into a different psychology. They were simply the ones who stopped mistaking safety for strategy, one uncomfortable decision before everyone else was ready to.